Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Kapansky, and thanks for joining us for today's Best Practice webinar. Today, we'll be covering from data to relationships with Bento Engine and Wealthbox. Before we do get started, a couple of housekeeping items I wanted to make sure that we cover throughout today's presentation. If you do have any questions, feel free to click on the Q&A button at the bottom within your Zoom panel and type those questions in. At the very end, we'll be able to address those questions for you. Also, keep in mind that this presentation is being recorded, so you will have the opportunity to rewatch or share the video with your colleagues in the future. Let's move into some quick introductions. The host for today will, of course, be myself representing Wealthbox. For anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Chris Kapansky, Head of Customer Education here at Wealthbox. I've been with Wealthbox for 10 years now, in that time working with thousands of firms, helping them get set up with the Wealthbox and ensure that they get the most out of their CRM. And if this is the first time you're hearing of Wealthbox, Wealthbox is the #1 rated CRM for financial advisors, known for its ease of use and high adoption. If you would like to see why so many advisors love Wealthbox, you could head over to wealthbox.com and click on Book a Demo to learn more, or stick around to the very end of today's presentation. We'll be sharing some follow-up contact info as well. I also have the pleasure of being joined by Philip Hecker, CEO of Bento Engine. Philip, can you introduce yourself and maybe tell us a bit about Bento Engine for anyone that might not be familiar?
Absolutely, Chris. Great to see you again. Looking forward to this webinar. Always enjoy the partnership and collaboration with our friends at Wealthbox. Philip here, co-founder and CEO of Bento Engine. We are a 5-year-old fintech startup, award-winning, laser focused on helping you to serve the right contacts on the right topics at the right point in time and in the right way. Because when you lead with advice, everybody wins. And how we do that through our technology and content, we're eager to show you in the course of this conversation.
Awesome. Well, Philip, thanks so much for joining me here today. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump right into the topic with these best practice webinars, just to kind of cover a little bit of the format in case anyone here has not joined one of these before. We do like to go screens off and basically have a conversation with our subject matter expert, here being Philip with Bento Engine. Towards the end of the presentation, we are going to share our screens as well and actually show you instead of just telling you about how some of our specific tools that we're here representing can help with the topic. But the topic is very agnostic, talking about some of the value adds that we have here. So starting at the very top, Philip, what does it mean for a CRM to be active versus just a place to store data?
Well, from my perspective, and then I'm eager to hear yours too, Chris, the CRM can and should be more than merely serve as a repository of client or prospect information. The days where we view it as an electronic Rolodex are coming fast to an end. It's time for us to use the CRM in a way where we not only put information in, but also get nudges, workflows, and value out of the CRM. The way we think about it, you all, the advisors, work very hard for your clients. You must get your CRM, whichever one you're using, to work even harder for you to do that work at scale.
That's right. Yeah, definitely agree with everything you just said. And I think even to add to that, you had mentioned that it's no longer just an electronic Rolodex. And I think there's an evolution that's happened. You had the Rolodex on the desk, then you had a contact list, then you had a database. And a CRM is not just a database anymore. It's a workspace, right? It's where you really lead your business. It's where you grow your business. It's not just customer relationship management, although that's where the name came from. There's a whole lot more in the industry today.
If I may, Chris, riff here for a second, what comes to my mind is the data value chain and the way we think about it. We think of data being transformed into information, information into insights, insights to recommendations, recommendations to actions, and guess what actions beget? More data.
Right.
And so the circle closes. Our industry has always been data rich. We have a lot of data sitting in many different systems. Our industry historically was information and insight poor. And right now, I think it's fair to say there's a lot of heavy lifting and work being done to transform your data into information and insights. Bento Engine then comes in, shapes those insights, and helps you to act upon them, which is
Right.
the most important thing of all.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. And you work with a lot of advisors that are essentially wanting to evolve their use of their data, right? With being able to seek out these opportunities for conversation, for actions. But how do you see that most advisors are currently using their CRM, and how does that compare to really its full potential? Where's the drawback?
Look, it's obviously a range, and it's a broad range of how we see advisors using their CRM. To level set and be, honest, it sometimes reminds me of me using Excel or me using PowerPoint. I've been working with those Microsoft Office tools for decades now as a consultant, working in wealth management, now in fintech. And I consider myself a somewhat savvy advanced user. And yet it's fair to say that even I only use 5 to 10% of the capabilities that systems like Excel and PowerPoint provide. Oftentimes, not always, thank God, we see advisors likewise only use a fraction of the great features and capabilities that you have worked into Wealthbox and other systems, helping advisors to increase the value that they get out of their tech stack by making it easy for them and almost pushing nudges and workflows to them wherever we can is one key technique of increasing that percentage of constructive, helpful, impactful CRM usage.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. And you had even mentioned earlier the value of using that data and seeking out these opportunities to be able to continue growing not only your book of business, but also growing your data, right? Making sure that you have more and more of that information. But speaking to it from the perspective of an advisor's growth strategy, continuing to grow their business, from your perspective, what role does that consistent value-driven communication actually play in that growth strategy?
Yeah, look, I think most people on the lines would concur. There are plenty of studies out there from McKinsey, Ernst and Young, the American College, and others that clearly point to the fact that clients tend to leave when they don't perceive being communicated with enough
Right.
and or on the right topics. And on the flip side, advisors who do engage their clients on a regular, frequent basis, perhaps not just with market updates, but personal, impactful advice, benefit in multiple ways. Client engagement drives organic growth, and it does so by driving loyalty, referral rate, and share of wallet. If you are top of mind to your clients frequently because you signal to them clearly that you are thinking about them at a personal level, everybody benefits, everybody wins.
Yeah, yeah, certainly that definitely does make sense, right? Kind of making sure that you have all of that functionality, all of that capability. It's really important to use that. And we'll revisit. I know you had mentioned a little bit about Bento Engine and how it's able to feed that kind of that opportunity and kind of highlight that opportunity. And we will revisit that here in a little bit. But I wanted to talk about something else that you had mentioned where it's important to have that data, right? And to make sure that you are getting more data from your clients. But what would happen when advisors have that rich client data, but not really a systematic way to act on that data?
Then it's worth not. I'll be that extreme. If you
Right.
have the data in an unorganized way, congrats, perhaps it's not better, it's better than having it not at all. But to make it useful, to feed it into the value chain that I outlined earlier on, to give systems like ours a chance to transform your data into information, insights, and actions, It needs to come in a structured way. And that's where you all, Wealthbox and other CRMs, play such a key role. You provide the chassis, you provide the framework for the data to live and come alive in constructive ways. If I may add one quick thing here, it's interesting over the past 5 years, we've seen CRM adoption and data hygiene in terms of quantity and quality meaningfully improve across our industry.
Yeah.
Meaningfully improve. And that's not just for compliance reasons. That's not only to protect for the downside. That's also because people intuitively understand that the client and prospect information that they sit on is a gold mine that wants to be mined.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does make sense, right? It's seeing that data, and this is something that I talk about a lot when I cover some of the Wealthbox functionality, and we'll get into the specific one in a little bit. But utilizing the tools that are available to you to seek out where there might be gaps in your data, and I think this is a completely other side to it to ensure that you're able to then leverage the data that you have there. But this kind of leads me into the next question here. Why do you think that so many advisors are struggling to stay top of mind with clients and prospects consistently? I know you mentioned that kind of that outreach, but is it a tooling issue? Is it a lack of knowledge of the tooling? What do you see?
I would argue that whenever people struggle to serve all of their clients appropriately well, they're being very honest. And that's a great thing. I'm always suspicious of advisors who think that they serve everybody extremely well. That's just not the lived reality, for most of us. When we analyze advisor books and activity of interaction between advisors and their clients, there's no doubt that many, if not all of you, serve your best clients really, really well. No doubt about it. However, when we look at the middle of a book, when we look at the bottom of the book, those clients are oftentimes woefully underserved and in our mind present a wonderful built-in organic revenue growth opportunity. And technology right now can help you all, can help us all to do that work more efficiently and more effectively.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it reduces the amount of time that it takes, right? If you are manually sourcing and creating that client communication, that is taking a lot of time, right? Time is money at the end of the day. But if you are having to pull up that data and understand that data and really kind of, seek out those opportunities yourself, that is time that you can be spending on another client call, on another review, right?
Let me take one more, crack at it from a macro perspective, stepping back for a second. The demand for human advice in this great country only continues to increase. When you think about wealth creation, population numbers, wealth distribution, when you think about wealth transferring from one generation to the next and oftentimes splintering, the demand for human advice continues to grow. At the same time, when we look at the supply side of the equation, let's be honest, the supply of great skilled human advisors has been flat at best over the past many years.
Mm-hmm.
We struggle to even replace our fast aging advisor, force out there. So demand goes up, supply is flat, technology must come to the rescue and help the same number of people to serve more clients equally, potentially even better than before.
Yeah, and I think you just answered kind of in between the lines this next thought that I had that I wanted to bring up. But you had mentioned the demand for human advice. What's the cost in retention and referrals of an inconsistent engagement strategy, right? You just mentioned that there is that demand, and I guess you'll just be surpassed by other advisors if they are reaching out more consistently. But what's your take on that?
Couldn't agree more. And let me take the positive case on that same question. When you are prospecting when you're pursuing a new client, oftentimes your prospect is somebody else's client already. It is paramount for you to differentiate yourself in the prospecting process and demonstrate to the prospect how much you care about them and how you are truly client-centric in your value proposition. And again, technologies like Wealthbox and Bento can help you do that efficiently at scale.
Yeah, certainly. And you had just mentioned a couple minutes ago, kind of servicing that the middle or the bottom of the book, right? Advisors, as we all know, we want to focus on the most the largest clients, right? The clients that are bringing in the most, the best clients. But what about the middle of the book or the bottom of the book? How can we bring value added service to those clients in efficient ways?
We'll get to that in the demo. Just to avoid any misperception here, I don't think that anybody is arguing that you need to serve your C clients like your A clients, and that you need to serve everybody in exactly the same way. You don't, and you shouldn't. You should be segment specific in your delivery of advice and service. However, a well-timed email on the right topic at the right point in time will come across to the recipient as, wow, my advisor is really thinking about me.
Yeah.
She really cares. And that's what we're after here at scale.
Right. Yeah. Now, pivoting the conversation over into, we had kind of spent the last couple of minutes talking about why you should be tracking that data in more efficient ways, and how you, or why you should be seeking out ways to reach out to your clients. But now let's talk a little bit about the solution. So what do we actually do here? What would you say a best practice client engagement cadence would look like for a financial advisor?
If you don't do it already, I would recommend to you all to think about a service calendar from a big picture point of view, meaning in a regular year, what are the touch points? What are the interaction opportunities that you want to realize, and perhaps even do it on a segment specific basis? What does that proactive, almost programmatic reach out look like for my clients, perhaps calendar driven, be it the tax season, be it the financial planning season, be it the year end season. In addition, as we'll show you in a couple of minutes, the lives of your clients and prospects, the life journey that they are on individually, present numerous, oftentimes highly predictable opportunities for you to engage. For example, around age-based milestones that trigger distinct risks or opportunities. Last thought I'll give you for now is perhaps think about proactive versus reactive outreach and advice. What parts can and should you do proactively? And where do you need to build in capacity and capabilities to react to certain events? For example, unforeseen, unplanned life events, somebody passing away, somebody getting sick. There are numerous of those where we as advisors want to be there, need to be there for our clients during, we call them moments that matter on the life journey.
Yeah, you had talked about earlier, that there's never really an expectation that a C client is getting the same attention as an A client, right? As your best of the best clients. How should advisors think about segmenting their book for communication purposes, maybe as it applies to some of these life events, right? Should the C-level clients also be getting that outreach? Should there be a difference in segmentation? What's your take on that?
Working with advisors of all sizes, stripes, across business models, I will tell you, I'm not sure I've seen a one-size-fits-all silver bullet to the important topic of segmentation. We've seen different approaches by wealth level, by engagement preferences, by age, by family situation, work for different advisors. So this is not a cop-out, but I wouldn't recommend a one-size-fits-all model. I would recommend thinking about segmentation and not pretending to be everything to everyone equally well.
Yeah.
The last comment I'll make is really think through what is the value proposition that you want to exhibit across the segments or on a segment specific basis. And be careful to not overpromise and then underdeliver. Ask yourself perhaps the hard question. When you prospected your C clients, the folks that are C clients today, what did you promise them? And are you living up to that promise?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, everything definitely connects. And earlier you had mentioned that service calendar, right? That segmentation might just be which service calendar version this specific client falls under, right? To your point, it could be age based, it could be wealth based, and it could just be kind of a combination. Your younger clients will likely want to hear from you more frequently, right? They will want to hear all the individual reminders because they are younger and they live in a very fast-paced technological era. They need to hear from you on a monthly basis. And if that's the case, they might not be the largest client or the client that is investing the most, but it might be one that works well for that. So yeah, Philip, I completely agree. It's definitely not a one size fits all. Segmentation should be specific to your outreach and how you run your specific business. Um, and going back to some of these, you when you look at a service calendar, there's the consistent outreach. There's I like to do a touch point once a quarter and we meet for a review once a year. But then outside of that, some of those more proactive outreach moments, what types of content actually move the needle when it comes to building client relationships? Is there kind of a secret sauce to what kind of outreach you should do to all clients versus some that might be optional?
Yes, is the short answer. Again, segment specific. Stepping back
Hmm.
for a minute and then I'll get to the answer. I'm oftentimes reminded in this context by a famous quote attributed to Teddy Roosevelt, who supposedly said, people, let's replace that here with clients, don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Again, clients don't care how much you know. All the technical gobbledygook that we tend to, lead with is less relevant unless they know how much you care, until you have demonstrated to them that you're truly on their side of the table, that you're truly a fiduciary in that sense. How to do that? A great way is being proactive and highly personal in your advice. When the client turns 62, ideally a year or two ahead of that, have the Social Security conversation and help them make the right choices around that important question of starting benefits now or later. Just to share a data point here, I recently came across a great study that indicated that around 80% of folks make suboptimal choices when it comes to the timing of their hard-earned security benefits. And the median foregone lifetime benefit from filing too early is a whopping $182,000. We're talking real impact, real dollar here. So talk about these age-based milestones for the account holder and their family as well.
Right.
Hey, you're turning 62. Your husband is turning 65. Let's have the Medicare conversation. Hey, your kids are turning 14 or grandkids. Here is how to get them working papers in the state that they live. Here is why they should legally earn income. And then let's put that legally earned income into custodial IRA accounts under the kid's name so that the kids get to enjoy the power of tax-deferred compounding for decades to come. When you lead with that type of proactive advice, which in a way is standardized, you'll give the same type of advice, but to the recipient, because of the context, it will come across as ultra personalized. Wow, my advisor really thought about me. We literally have anecdotes of advisors saying, I got a new great prospect because my client talked at the country club about the age 14 working papers type of advice he's been getting. And others at the country club said, wow, my advisor doesn't do that for me. Let's talk. Wonderful examples. Real quick, and then I pause. In addition to these proactive opportunities, as we mentioned before, life happens. Getting married, divorced, having a child, moving to Florida, all that good stuff. All these moments that matter. Some are predictable. Sometimes clients share with you, hey, we're thinking about getting married or divorced, in which case you can be proactive. Sometimes you just need to react in the moment. And when you get that dreaded call, be ready to jump in with thoughtful advice on those topics.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunities to reach out, and as we start reaching out with these different opportunities to seek out more conversations, more reasons to communicate with your client, how can we actually measure that? How do advisors know whether their communication strategy is actually working?
Well, many of our partners by now track email open rates, duration, CTA adherence, meaning to what degree was the call to action that you tee up in the email actually followed. And then in their CRM, they not only document those interactions, but obviously also what happens thereafter, so that the attribution of gain of wallet share, of a new referral is easily tied to some key interactions you did with them. So a lot is happening, much like it is on the data quality front, when it comes to MIS, Management Information Systems, and the tracking of the engagement cycle and the benefits that that brings.
Yeah, that definitely does make sense. All right, so pivoting now into the tools that we're here representing. We've been having kind of an open-ended agnostic conversation so far, but now getting into the tools that we are representing. What does Bento Engine specifically provide to assist with client engagement?
I'll be happy to talk about that, sharing some PowerPoint pages at the conceptual level, and then I'll pop over real quick into a Wealthbox and show it to you in the flash. Chris, I'll try to keep this to 5-6 minutes, keep it snappy, because we've had a good conversations about the meat of the topic already. I am going to screen share. Can you all see a PowerPoint building up?
Yes.
Excellent. By way of context, you know your clients and prospects, and you know the US tax code and the wealth planning opportunities that provides. The basic idea is, let's combine the two and systematically lead with advice during those moments that matter. By way of context, when it comes to moments that matter, we as Bento identified 38 that we currently focus on in our system. And we broke them down into 3 color-coded modules here. On top, Life in Numbers focuses on 16 age-based milestones, courtesy of Uncle Sam. Age-based opportunities like QCDs at 70.5, catch-up contributions at age 50, or the working age 14 that I mentioned earlier. In addition to these highly predictable age-based milestones, life happens. Life events at the bottom, self-explanatory. We currently have 14 often occurring life events up and running. And Children Wealth, top left corner, is a program that helps advisors to engage with G2 or G3 of the client family from very early on, helping them on their financial literacy journey. Our partners can purchase 1, 2, or all 3 content programs. We modularized our offering. Collectively, they cover the entire life cycle of the client from cradle to grave. For each of those moments that matter, we have developed purpose-built multi-format materials. We believe that the mode of communication really matters and should be client-specific. Some of your clients are visual learners. They actually enjoy looking at a well-structured PowerPoint or PDF page. We have that for you. Some of your clients would much rather have a conversation. For those type of clients, we have prepared talking points for you to leverage. Others yet, Chris, to your earlier point, are happy getting things going via email. We've got you covered. To note, these multi-format materials, as laws and regulations change, we keep them current. Big value proposition to our partners. And of course, they can be white label branded in your look and feel. We recently launched 3 new advice opportunities marked here in green. We added age 60 to 63 as the max saver catch-up contribution courtesy of Secure 2.0, and driven by popular demand from our advisor partners, we added death of a parent and death of a spouse to the life events program. You see here on the following 3 pages the PowerPoint versions of that advice. It's always short and sweet. Here we see the key page for max saver catch-ups covering the what are max saver contributions, the why bother, why pursue that strategy, and last but not least, action steps, how to get it done. Likewise, for death of a parent, here are the 8 bases our subject matter experts recommend that you cover and your clients think about when they go through the unfortunate event of death of a parent. I'm not going to go into details now. You can see here that's a 4-page little deck covering these 8 bases. Likewise, for death of a spouse, happens to be 8 bases as well that are slightly different from the use case of death of a parent. Again, we keep on adding content driven by your demand. How Bento works at the tech level? Well, you, the advisors, you continue to use your Wealthbox as is. No new login, no new system to learn, no new app on the workstation. You probably have too many already. All we do is via API connect to the back end of your Wealthbox. In your Wealthbox, our advice engine constantly scans your entire book of business to identify upcoming advice opportunities. When we find one, we pull the right content from our proprietary content library, and then very proactively, at the right point in time, we alert you on the opportunities, and via the task functionality, give you access to compliance pre-approved content coming in multiple formats. Let me toggle over here, Chris, with your permission, into a Wealthbox demo environment. Can you all see a Wealthbox environment building up?
Yes.
Perfect. Chris, you're our advisor. It's Monday morning. After your 3rd cup of coffee, you fire up your CRM. And given that you're quite organized, you'll probably go to your task list for your to-dos, for the day. As you can see here, some of your tasks have nothing to do with Bento Engine. They are your regular, course of business, your regular set of activities. But then you also see these blue labeled Bento alerts, which give you always an indication of what's the opportunity at hand and who does it pertain to. If you do not want to advise Bob Smith on how to think about Social Security benefits as he's about to age 62, if you don't want to do that work for whatever reason, you simply delete the task and move on with your day. If, however, let's say age 50 catch-ups for Janet Smith catch your eye, Janet is a great client of yours, you haven't spoken in a while, then you click on this alert and this standard alert structure pops up for you. Hey, your good client Janet is about to turn 50. In case you haven't had a chance yet to advise on catch-up contributions, now would be a good time. And then we give you links to compliance pre-approved content coming in multiple formats. So if Janet is coming in next week anyhow for a quarterly review meeting, if she enjoys looking at PowerPoint pages, then you download the 2-pager on catch-up contributions. Again, covering the what, the why, and the how. On the last page, we keep everybody safe, disclaimers, quality further reading, the underlying code, and current as of. If Janet does not enjoy looking at PowerPoint pages, if she would much rather have a conversation, Then you would follow link number 2 and access the talking points version of the advice. Think of this as a cheat sheet for you to leverage while you're on the phone or on a Zoom, helping you to frame the conversation and then spoon feeding to you the key messages to relay in an impactful dialogue on the topic at hand. For every topic, we also have a short email ready to go. And 2 more things I want to show you. We have internal use only advisor FAQs. So if it's been a while, Chris, since you last advised on making catch-up contributions, if you need a refresher yourself, you can leverage these, training documents, internal use only. We organize them around the what, the why, and the how. It's simple FAQ style. And if your eyes are very good here, our subject matter experts always cite the underlying text code so that everybody can backtrace what is the advice actually based on. Before I pause and sum it up, there's one more element I want to show you. It's a recent innovation. We now, for every topic, have something we call interactive topic pages. We basically atomized all our content, and we can now digitally reconfigure it in different places in different ways. And one advisor-facing manifestation you see here, for every topic, we have a central landing page for you to leverage that help you get up to speed on the topic very, very quickly, that give you access to all the external materials, including an auto launch of the email. Here you have access to the internal materials. And then we also added third-party quality further information. For those of you running bigger firms or working for bigger firms, of course, this page can be highly customized, embedded anywhere you want us to, branded, and so on, also leading them to fulfillment opportunities on your own platform. Let's remember, we always lead with client-centric advice, but that way we create pull, we create demand for investment, banking, trust and estate, insurance, and other type of solutions. So in summary, toggling back to the Wealthbox here, I think you understand how we work, deeply embedded in your Wealthbox, making that great system work even harder for you. Not only alerting you of opportunities, next best action system is the buzzword these days, but then also covering the so what, helping you with the actual materials that you need to engage your clients on the right topics, at the right point in time, and in the right way, helping you pick the best mode of communication on a client or prospect specific basis. There's more to it, Chris, but hopefully for a quick overview, that's helpful. Let me pause and rest my case right here.
Awesome. Yeah, very, very helpful. Thanks so much for sharing that. And I'll actually jump right into Wealthbox. We'll talk about what we could do with those tasks and kind of taking a step back and looking at Wealthbox overall as well on some of the things we already talked about throughout the conversation today. So the main topics that I wanted to mention and go through on the Wealthbox side will be client data, right? Being able to have a place to track certain information, including the customization of Wealthbox, creating your own custom fields. Then we'll talk a little bit more about tasks that we saw would feed in from Bento Engine, as well as some other templated tasks for your one-off tasks and reminders that you might want to track. Then we'll talk about workflows and then actually reporting on that data. So when we take a look at Wealthbox, we just saw Philip had actually shared his Wealthbox account as well, but I wanted to quickly frame up the home page here because it is the first place that you land on when you log in, but it also serves as a really good reset point. To Philip's earlier point, your tasks section will show you all of your tasks, but the home page still gives you really, really good insight. On the home page, you'll be able to see all of your upcoming activities on the right-hand side, and then that includes any meetings that would integrate from your personal calendar. You'll also see those tasks. We can include workflow steps in that view as well. And then front and center, we'll see a publisher where we can add new activities as well as an activity stream, letting you know of everything that is happening within Wealthbox, conversations being held, tasks that are being created, contacts created, etc. Let's actually take a look at a contact record page. So when you are tracking your client, let me get rid of that note here. When you're tracking a client within Wealthbox, there's a lot of different places where you'll see client information. Right at the top, you have a snapshot of just the most important details, their contact info, tags, their household company, and of course, name. Along the right-hand side, we'll see contact details. These are additional details that are just a small scroll away, where you can see the client's address, their social security number, contact type. But then there's this other area that is tucked away. It's kind of in a one-click away area called the additional info tab, where you'll be able to see information like your client's compliance dates, like written agreements, investment profile, their health info, their passport and driver's license numbers. All of those details will be here. But then beyond that, Wealthbox, being an out-of-the-box solution, still offers a lot of customization. And custom fields play a big part in that. Custom fields in Wealthbox can be created as a text field. It could be a date field, a checkbox, a drop down. It could be a currency. It could be a percentage. And you could track this additional detail that will help you leverage the data that you have in the CRM to be able to seek out additional opportunities, whether it be just by looking at the contact or by running reports. So when you have this information and you're ready to actually kind of take action on that, we saw how Bento Engine is able to feed you that information with everything that you need. But if you did want to add a quick reminder into Wealthbox, tasks are your to-dos. They're your reminders that you'll be adding in the CRM. And it could be a super simple name of task of what needs to be done and when it needs to be done, and of course, who needs to do it. But we can kind of level up a little bit by creating task templates. And in a similar fashion that we'll see that information pulling from Bento Engine pre-populated with everything you need to know, if you have very unique types of follow-ups that you do with your clients, you could create that as a template, have that template pre-fill your entire task, including any repeating frequency, categories, priorities, etc., ready to go. And when we look at the templates perspective, and if we want to take that to the next level, that's where we start looking at workflows, right? Even when we do see some of those tasks that are feeding in from Bento Engine, or a client calls up with a specific life event that happened, if there's multiple things that you would like to do about that, yes, there's the initial outreach with communication and details that Bento Engine provides you with, or if you're setting that yourself, but there's other follow-ups that you might want to see through. And a workflow is a templated business process that allows you to ensure that every part of that gets completed. So you'll be able to see previously completed steps, you'll be able to see your current active step, and you'll be able to see what's coming up in the future, especially when working with colleagues. The handoff is automated. There's a ton of details that you can have in that workflow. And in addition, you could use advanced tools like workflow actions that'll prompt you to email or call the client or even update information directly on their contact record without leaving that workflow. We also have conditional logic that allows the workflow to react in a different way based on how that conversation went with your client or prospect, which will tell the workflow to skip certain steps, restart the entire workflow, simply restart that step so that you could follow up at a later time. So that's workflows, and there's a lot of depth in the workflows themselves with some pre-built templates and other aspects to it. But then taking all of that and putting it together, reporting is really where you take this data to the next level, allowing you to run CRM data reports in Wealthbox. There's some samples we provide you with, but you could build your own reports. Not only can you build your own report from scratch, but we do have an AI for reports function that allows you to use plain English prompt to specify what it is that you're looking for, and the AI model will build the report for you. So you could say, show me all contacts with active client as their contact type, with golf as a tag, and with a birthday coming up in the next 60 days. And I might just want to generate that. That will take what I just entered in plain English, and it'll build that report for me based on the contact type, that tag, and that birthday that's coming up. There it is. It's already built for me, ready to go. I'm confident that this will actually give me results in this live demo environment. But if you then pull up that data, you're able to see all the information that matters, everything that you specified that you want to see from that data, which you can then use as a call list, or you could use to ensure that that data is exactly where it needs to be. And then tracking that data, using the metrics in that data to visualize the information that's here, either in the individual report or taking it even further with dashboards, pulling in all of that information into one view to be able to see how many clients are you working with, how many have some of these life events that are coming up very soon. Based on those tasks that are feeding in from Bento Engine, we're able to really leverage the data that is there. So very quick, high level, that really only scratches the surface of what Wealthbox is able to do for you, but I'll leave it at that. That is just a couple of the features that are built into Wealthbox that will help you with client engagement. So with that, let's go ahead and open it up for some questions. I saw some questions coming in throughout the kind of conversation here and throughout some of the presentations. So if you do have questions, click on that Q&A button down at the bottom, and we'll be able to address those questions for you. Just for the remainder of us being here, I'll pull up this follow-up contact slide. If you're wanting to learn more about Wealthbox, you have the email address over on the left-hand side, sales@wealthbox.com, as well as the ability to book a demo by scanning the QR code. If you're interested in learning more about Bento Engine, on the right-hand side, you have the email address, hello@bentoengine.com, as well as the QR code to book a demo as well. So let's take a quick look at some of these questions that were coming in here. I saw a couple great ones here. So it looks like two questions here are kind of related. It's with the life events that are coming up, and it's questions specifically for Bento Engine. How is Bento finding these life events? Is that something that an advisor triggers when there's a death, a new job? How is that triggered for Bento to then feed Wealthbox with a task?
Excellent, Chris. Yes, Shannon and Benjamin asked directionally the same question. The answer is the same. To identify life events, we offer two options. One is advisor-driven, and the other one is AI-driven. Advisor-driven, you get wind of a divorce being on the horizon in a client conversation. You go into your Wealthbox and use the very tag functionality that Chris showed just a few minutes ago. You go to the contact level, and we as Bento inject custom tags into your Wealthbox. Think of it as a drop-down menu where we have the 14 life events that we support with our materials, and you simply tag the contact for the life event, and then the materials for that contact will be pushed into your Wealthbox via the task functionality as we've seen before. So that's option one, the dominant option, which is advisor-driven. You get wind of a major life event, you tag the contact in your Wealthbox, and then it flows. We're also right now launching a new capability which is AI-driven. With your permission, we can inject a little AI agent, a semantic search tool that scans your unstructured data, your call notes, and identifies life events. It's more than just a buzzword search. So literally, if your analyst, writes down, ooh, they might be heading to Splitsville, the system is smart enough to pick that up as divorce as a potential life event. Even then, though, we believe in advisor in the loop, human in the loop. We surface those opportunities, and you as the advisor confirm that indeed those life events are relevant for that contact. So hopefully Shannon and Benjamin that answered your good questions around how we identify life events. It's either advisor-driven or AI-driven. The choice is yours.
Awesome. Thank you for the context. Love automations. That's great. Awesome. So another question that did come in here is, how do you actually establish the integration? How's the installation process?
You guys, Wealthbox makes it super easy. You can literally, as an advisor, go to our website, bentoengine.com, and in the top right corner, click the Install Now button. We take you on a 20-minute self-directed installation journey where we API key exchange, meaning connect into your Wealthbox and configure the solution along a number of dimensions to best support your preferences and desired workflows. So Wealthbox makes it easy. Thank you, Wealthbox. You can do it yourself by going to the website and clicking Install Now. If you want us to handhold you through the process, of course, we can do that too.
Perfect. Thank you. I see another question here in regards to earlier you pointed out the compliance aspects of some of the documents in there. Is Bento approved at the larger broker dealers out there?
Yes, is the short answer. We work with independent RIAs, hybrids, broker-dealer, insurance companies, regional banks, the large broker-dealers, LPL, Osaic, Cambridge. We have many of them on platform. We're approved. We're ready to go.
Awesome. Perfect. Another question here in regards to the cost, pricing of Bento Engine.
Very accessible pricing. The pricing details are on our website. Our model is seat-based. We charge per lead advisor seat. To give you an order of magnitude, if you're a single advisor, if you want to use two content solutions, let's say the age-based milestones and the live events, then that's $1,999, $2,000 per seat per year. What you have to believe to recoup that investment is not too heroic. Bento adds value to your clients and your practice fast.
Awesome. Thank you. Looks like there's one more question in here in regards to the content. And you had even mentioned earlier subject matter experts that are building these out. How is the content built and maintained on the Bento Engine side?
Not by AI. We're trying, but not by AI yet. It is developed by human subject matter experts, think professors at the leading financial planning institutions, Kansas State, Utah Valley, Georgia, Texas, and so on. Those experts build and maintain the content. As I alluded to earlier on, laws and regulations change all the time, and these folks keep an eye on it centrally for you, so you don't have to. When there is a change to the materials, we send you red line versions, so you quickly see what was updated. It ups all our competency on the many, many bases that we need to cover as advisors today.
Perfect. Thank you. Looks like another question just came in. Looks like to be specific to Wealthbox. Is there a library of workflows for the entire catalog for current customers? Yes, there are. If you navigate to your workflows section in the Manage Templates page where you see your existing templates, you can click into the drop down at the top left and you'll find the Wealthbox library as well as other libraries that were provided by our integration partners as well. So I'll just switch over and show you really quickly. If you navigate to your workflows, click on Manage Templates, you'll find this drop down here where you'll find a list of different libraries. There's the Wealthbox library, and you might notice there's a Bento Engine library as well with a workflow built in for you here. Awesome. Hopefully that answers your question here. Looks like we're nearing the kind of limit of our time here. So I'll take the time to say thank you to everyone that joined us here today, who participated. Philip, thank you as always for co-hosting and having this conversation with me. Really appreciate your expertise and what you brought to the conversation. Thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you to the folks out on the lines. Follow up with us in case of any questions. And Chris, thanks to you and the entire Wealthbox team for the ongoing great partnership.
Certainly. Right back at you. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye.